Hello and welcome.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chris.
And I'm Alex from PDQ.com.
Yay! Welcome to the show.
Today we'll be talking a little bit about how to keep you protected from your users.
Oh man, I need that. I need that. You need that. We need that.
Everybody needs this because we're all human. We all have humans that work with us.
And corgis. So happy Halloween, by the way. And ruff, woof, all that. We'll get it out. Shake a tail. Yeah. Anyway, it'll be fun. Yeah. Well, cool.
All right. So there's a couple statistics that we can talk about that are scary, right? Since it is Halloween, some things that are scary to bring up.
Oh my goodness, I like scary.
So in 2019, 2/3 of ransomware attacks targeted state and local government agencies.
Wow.
So that's a surprising and alarming amount of attacks, but
It is.
it is just the truth. So
Why do you think that is? Why are they targeting these? Thoughts?
the only thing I can think of is monetary gain.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I'm sure there's usually a few others, outliers, but for the majority of attacks, they're motivated by money.
It is. It's been a huge windfall for a lot of these, purveyors of ransomware, because a lot of these agencies realize that, I can spend $30,000 to $50,000 and save myself a whole lot of money. Like the city of Baltimore, I think when they got hit, they ended up spending about $18 million getting their systems back up to date. Atlanta, approximately $17 million. So when you kind of gauge that, it's easier to pay the ransom than it is to rebuild your infrastructure.
Right.
So really,
Yeah.
you don't want to have to do that.
No, and I know that there's the average dollar value placed on these ransomware attacks is around $116,000.
Oh, wow.
And that's just the average. We're not talking these other outliers that Kelly just brought up of, in the millions of dollars, because there have been some that have said, look, the FBI always says don't pay the ransom, but sometimes it's actually more costly to bring a system back online following a ransomware attack simply because you're denying the ransom to be paid.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's we in a previous life we got hit with ransomware, and they were demanding upwards of I forget what it was at the time. It was something 30,000, 40,000 or something like that, and we had a serious discussion about how much money or how much we actually make in a given hour. Is it worth the time spending it? The resources, should we pay it? Turns out we actually had decent backup, so we didn't lose too much. We decided, you're not getting our money today. And then I had a very angry chat with, how this happened. But anyway, that's crazy. That's high average.
Yeah, so anyway, so there's that side of it. And then there was a recent 60-minute story surrounding kind of the whole how to protect yourself, what are things to look for, and the number one thing that the FBI recommends doing is...
Patching!
You got it. Patching your system.
Yeah,
Because
that. Not like your, corgi
What do you know?
surprise. So that's kind of the takeaway from that 60 Minutes episode is to kind of utilize the tools that we provide to patch your systems in a timely fashion. And we'll go into a little bit about that.
Good.
So let's jump right in.
I like it.
So
Security is important.
yeah,
just
security, let's see. So there's a couple things we can do to help protect ourselves against the looming threat of ransomware and crypto ransomware. One of those things is to train your end users. And I know we talked a little bit about this in our previous webcasts, but it's so important that I feel it needs to be brought up again, because there's a funny quote. I find it funny because I'm in security, so I laugh at these things, but some people might find it like, well, that was kind of weird. But the quote was essentially, if you have users who open emails regularly, then every single one of your computers is technically internet facing.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right. So because your users are the person or the people who are susceptible to these types of attacks, because ransomware is in many different variants, and a lot of the times it comes down to the phishing attacks that happen, and email is probably the number one thing. And according to Trend Micro, 90% of all attackers utilize phishing as a method of attacking a network or gaining access to a network.
There's some pretty sophisticated attacks out there. I mean, we're not just talking about end users that don't know anything about computers. I mean, they could fool you or me. I mean, they get pretty smart.
So, for example, I've pulled up just a sample of what a phishing email might look like. Here's one that's stating, "Hey, FYI, this is Google. Hey, John, this is Google. Looks like someone tried to log into your account. We're just trying to validate that you are who you say you are. And you know what? While we're at it, why don't you just change your password? Click this little blue button down at the bottom. Sincerely, the Gmail team." And to the untrained eye, this might seem like, oh, this is scary. What should I do? Do I click this? Do I change my password?
Yeah.
And they try to kind of give the empowerment to the user. They empower the user of saying, hey, there's something you can do right now to fix this vulnerability potentially. So users will click this. It will send them to what looks like a legitimate Gmail password reset. And when they enter in all their information and it says success, turns out that it wasn't actually Google related.
Yeah, their phishing scam was a success. Gotcha.
Ding. Yeah. So that's what they're after. They're trying to get information from you or have you download and install or run a malicious file or executable.
Yeah.
So that's just one of the things that we can look out for there.
Scary, just throwing it out there.
Exactly. So here's the other thing. Within PDQ inventory, can you show them, Chris, a little bit about like what we have by default that we can, like a collection we can look for of outdated software?
Oh, absolutely. So you guys hopefully have used PDQ inventory, and if you haven't, you should. Give it a shot. You'll love it. You'll fall in love with it. This is actually oh man, this is the cream of the crop. I love it. So first and foremost, we at pdq.com, we provide the collection library to all of you. This is a set of collections that we keep updated to let you know, the user at home, whether you have a given set of software that's outdated, up to date, not installed. In the case here, we actually have internet browsers here pulled up to show you that you can see Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, and the various statuses and computers that actually have their information about it. So in this case, if I browse down to Firefox latest, Firefox 64-bit latest, what that is saying is, and I can double click this and open up the filter so you can even see it. It matches some of the variables that we have to say, hey, do you match this pattern for the name of the software we're looking for? Does it match this version or later? And if that's the case, you've got the latest version. Awesome. Now, the cool thing about that is that you can have your schedules for your scans on your machine set so that you can always have up-to-date information. So that when Alex over here, he says, hey, you know what? I wonder if all our machines are up to date with Firefox. Based off this, assuming my scan's been recent, I have no computers with the latest version of Firefox. That's kind of scary to understand, especially if Firefox had just announced there's a new 0-day vulnerability that was, released in the wild, and people are harvesting, passwords and sorrow and all the fun stuff. I mean, it could be a lot of crazy stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
So
it's always the Wild West when it comes to keeping up with the patches and
Oh, yeah.
all the vulnerabilities that come out day to day. And those are just the things that we learn about.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of 0-day vulnerabilities that we don't know on a public basis that exist. And this is just a good way to kind of keep up on the things we are aware of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah.
Dear Chris and Alex, would you say PDQ is a full replacement or even better than WSUS? If so, how-to would be helpful. Thanks, Chris.
Chris, thank you.
Good name.
That was a good question.
And good name.
And is a good name. And what I'm going to say, I'll add my 2 cents, and then Chris,
Please.
you can go ahead and add your 2 cents. So although PDQ does offer the cumulative updates and the security updates provided by Microsoft, we do not tout that we are a full WSUS replacement by any stretch of the means of the imagination. However I'm supposed to say that.
A little mix of the two.
But
Magic.
But we do offer some help in that regard. However, we do not claim to be a WSUS replacement.
Right. So what we're talking about here in our package library in PDQ deploy are, because M comes before W. Nope, they're Windows. I'm smart. I just typed things. We have the Windows updates that he's talking about, the main ones, the cumulative updates that you can see here, and they're available and you can schedule them fantastic. They're seamless, they're easy, yay! But it doesn't cover everything that Windows actually releases. This doesn't cover the .NET Cumulative Update, the Internet Explorer stuff. I mean, we don't cover the wide gamut of things. It doesn't cover the updates to the OS, like, so, Windows 10 from 1803, 1809, 1903, all those fun stuff. We don't. Now, we do have some, folks out there who have taken the trouble and found a good way to do those and to mitigate any problems that they have in their environment. And check out our forums. We have some good ideas that are out there. But just as Alex said, WSUS covers far more than just these cumulative and security updates. So I mean,
Yes.
It's a good tool. Once you set it up, it's really easy to just set it, forget it, and let it do its magic. At least that's my opinion.
Right.
So I don't know.
Perfect. So moving on with the security theme here, we talked a little bit about how to deploy and look at different collections that we have available for you to check out old applications. But what if Chris, I have a security concern where I don't want to be putting in my domain admin credentials into, say, the PDQ inventory or PDQ deploy service? What alternatives do we have? I'll give you a hint. Do we have that we can implement a local admin?
Oh my goodness, you said the magic word. So, labs, which is funny because I always forget what this actually stands for because I'm just used to it knowing as labs.
I think it's local admin password solution, but don't quote me on that.
I'm going to say locally awesome PowerShell. But that's me, and I'm probably wrong. In fact, I am wrong. Don't listen to me. But we can add labs here.
If there was a C in it, it'd stand for Corgi.
It would. Actually, the C is blank and silent, so it's there.
That's it. It's just a hidden character.
Soon we'll be using Wingding's font. It'll be great. But yeah, no, you can add your Labs credentials here. And for those that haven't used Labs, you should look into this because it allows the machine, the local account to exist on that machine, but then to talk to Active Directory to find out the credentials because those credentials are constantly being updated, the password specifically, excuse me. And it is a good way to be secure, right?
Right. Because then if you're concerned about, say, a local machine getting compromised with domain admin credentials or even enterprise admin credentials, which I don't recommend doing, but Labs is a great way to mitigate that specific security concern within your environment, and it's already pre-built into both of our products, so you can utilize that feature to continue to make your environment more secure and more safe.
Yeah, in fact, because with one of the cool things with our products is if you're using deploy to deploy, Firefox or whatever to a given machine, I'll just highlight 7-zip here. You can actually choose to use the PDQ inventory scan user credentials before attempting to use the PDQ deploy credentials that's set, right here as well. So what that means is that if you have Labs configured in inventory to those machines for scanning purposes, you can deploy with that Labs user as well. And oh my goodness, it's, stars align, magic occurs. It's just, the end of the rainbow, there's a pot of gold or corgis. It's cool. It's awesome. I like it.
Yeah. Do we have want to take another question?
Dear Chris and Alex, I need to revamp my specter/meltdown collection, scans, etc. Do you have any sources I can use? Thanks, Ryan J.
Ryan, thank you for the question. I have included several links in the bonus content regarding where you can find a few more details surrounding Spectre Meltdown. I believe Microsoft even includes, and it's in the bonus content as well, Microsoft even includes a PowerShell module and script that you can run within your environment, and you can use inventory and deploy to run that script if you so choose, and check to validate if you are still vulnerable to said side channel attacks. I'm not going to go into what Spectre and Meltdown is because it's a whole beast in of itself. Needless to say, if you're concerned about if you're vulnerable, please check out those links, and they will provide you with further reading information regarding that.
Totally. In fact, I'm just going to throw this out there because I believe Colby over there, yay, hi Colby, has written a blog, about the vulnerabilities before and how to mitigate certain things and track them. So if you guys know about a vulnerability and we haven't mentioned of it, and you know how to scan for it because we have inventory that can be customized very well to scan for things, drop us a line. We'll throw something together and get that information out so more people can benefit from it. I just self-plug. We like blogs. Yay. Anyway, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Chris, and thanks, Colby, for that. So what other things can we do then to help protect our environment? Another crucial key point to remember is you talked a little bit about this a minute ago, backups. You said it when you were in a previous life, you relied on backups.
Yes.
There's a 3-2-1 rule that I like to remember. It's not necessarily that you have to live by this rule, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind when thinking about backups. So keep 3 copies of your backup. Make sure that 2 of those copies are on a different medium. For example, if you have a set of backups on hard drives, make a secondary backup on something else like a DVD or a set of tapes if you have those old systems that run on tape backups. If you have any other storage medium that you want to put that backup on, that's typically best practice. And then keep one of those copies off-site so that you don't keep all of your eggs in one basket. So if something somehow happens to both, all 3 of them, you at least have one separated from the group so that nothing happens to it. And then the last piece about that is make sure you're testing these, because if Chris, if you were in your environment and you were to be like, no, we've got backups, we're totally fine, and then you try to restore from that backup, and let's say it's corrupt,
you're going to have a bad time.
That's just you're just asking for trouble, basically.
You're gonna have a bad time.
Uh-huh.
So make sure that you have a schedule set up that you're validating and testing those backups on a regular basis, not just once and saying, oh, we're good. Because over time, as you know, computers don't tend to just be happy all the time.
Yeah.
So things break, things will stop working. Make sure and validate that they are up to date and working properly.
Smart. I like it.
Smart.
Cool. All right. What else we got?
We've got...
Magic.
Okay.
While we're doing stuff and setting up here, just to call it again, in my previous life that I have mentioned before, is we did just that. We had local backups on a local system. We had external hard drives hooked to the system. We did stuff that we shipped offsite. We did tapes, actually, because tapes are fantastic. They're cheap. They last forever. Cheap, relatively speaking. And because we offloaded something like 120 gigabytes worth of data a day. It was a mid-sized call center, and we recorded all the calls. And it was invaluable when we had to ever pull a recording from years ago. We had the data, and it was stored off-site in a separate location. We had to go fish it out, look for tags, but it saved everything. So seriously, backups do that. 3, 2, 1. That's easy to remember.
They work, yes.
I like that.
All right, so here's another screenshot that I've shown here. If you guys have ever used a form of 2-factor authentication, this is just one example of something you can do in your environment. This is an app provided by Microsoft called the Authenticator app, and what it does is you can connect your login credentials to, say, an Authenticator app, and what it does is when you log in, rather than just relying on your user password to get in, it sends a second form of authentication to, say, your mobile device and says, hey, is this really you trying to log in? If so, say, click yes or approve or whatever the app says, and it will help protect against some of these phishing attacks where they gather your credentials or credential harvesting or things of that nature, right? So it's to help mitigate that account takeover, because that's a pretty big deal. I know there's been a lot of account takeovers with like YouTube accounts of the popular broadcasters. There's been a lot surrounding Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency account takeovers. In fact, I just attended a conference where they talked about, there's a gentleman from, I don't remember the name of the company, but he was one of the security guys at this cryptocurrency company, and they see so many attempts at account takeovers just to steal someone else's money, right? And all they needed to do was introduce a secure form of 2FA to help mitigate those attacks. But there's a caveat. What are these two? What do you see down here? These two.
The call and text.
Yeah. How do you feel about text message as a form of 2FA?
Terrible, actually. I don't know if you do.
No, I do. I do too. That's why I wanted to know what your opinion was.
I hate it.
Yeah, text message 2FA, in my opinion, is poor security simply because there's a thing called SIM swap.
Yep.
And what SIM swapping is essentially somebody calls into your phone carrier, says, hey, I got a new device. Please send me a new SIM card, or can you activate my new SIM card to work with my new phone, please? Thank you. And what they'll do is they'll actually switch your old a SIM with your old phone to the attacker's phone and his SIM card, and voila, all they have to do is type in username and password. The SIM comes into, or the 2FA comes into their phone. Then they can say, actually, you know what, change my mind, switch it back, and then you'll never know. You would even know that you had a SIM swap attack even happen. And this has happened quite a few times. If you go do some research around it, there's quite a few people that have had this happen where they've lost, I dare say, millions of dollars.
Oh yeah, no, this is a scary thing. It's incidentally something I've actually read about as well. And it's the more you learn about it, the more you think, oh my goodness. I mean, what can I do that's safe? You know?
Right.
So
exactly.
Yep.
Let's see what other things we've got going on. I know this is going to sound a little cheesy and redundant.
Oh, I love cheesy and redundant. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Firewalls.
Oh yeah, those are not cheesy. Those are fiery.
And I'm talking about hardware
Oh,
firewalls.
okay.
A hardware firewall. The importance of a hardware firewall might seem like it doesn't matter, no big deal, right? No one's gonna get into our stuff. But it's all about, when it comes down to security, the focus is around, I don't know if you ever heard the Shrek reference to him being an onion because he's multi-layered. Yeah, no, it's a lame joke, but they kind of reference that same concept in security where you have multiple layers of security surrounding your environment.
Yeah.
And a firewall kind of adds to that onion, I guess you could say, as an extra layer, right? So you have your patch management system, you have your firewall, you have 2FA, what else we talk about? Phishing attempt training. All of these things combined kind of add into that onion that we're talking about to give you extra layer. Now, there's never going to be something that's an end-all be-all 100%. You're good to go. No security concerns here, because there's always going to be another way in. What we're trying to do is kind of help expand this breadth of security tools that you can do and implement today in your environment, so that you can protect yourself and your organization against some of these attacks that are just rampant all over.
Right. If you, I'll say this: if you think you or your company has never been attacked or targeted, you're probably wrong. Just throwing it out there.
Oh, here's another thing we forgot to mention here with the 2FA.
Yay.
Security keys. If you've never seen one of these little devices before, these are hardware forms of two-factor authentication. So let's say you log in to your Gmail account, and it's saying, hey, we need your second form of identification, please. You can plug one of these devices, once you have it set up, of course, into the device you're logging in with, and this device will authenticate and say that, yep, this is who this person says it is, so that you cannot take their account over, essentially. And there's tons of different types of these devices. There's, I think, yubikey.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Google Titan, didn't they have that thing?
Google Titan's got one. Which ones am I missing, Colby?
Maybe the FIDO stuff.
Oh, the FIDO. That's what I'm thinking of. Yep. There's the FIDO key. There's several different companies out there that do it, and they do it well. Make sure you do your research around who it is you're trying to include in your environment. But I think these are kind of the global or the gold standard when it comes to a hardware two-factor authentication key, I guess is what they call them, like FIDO and YubiKeys.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
I
like them.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on those?
No, I mean, just these are one of those things that you don't realize that they're how fantastic they are until you have one. Because just think about it. Especially if you have the multi-factor authentication enabled with texts or with phone calls, that can be compromised. Even the stuff for authentication apps, maybe you lost your phone. I mean, granted, you could extend this to say you lost your YubiKey, but at the same time, you know if you lost your YubiKey or phone. But in many cases, I know with like the Google Authenticator stuff, if you haven't exported those, good luck with that. If you lose your phone, you're gone. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can be done. You can have backup YubiKeys. I mean, or I keep on saying YubiKeys because to me that's like the clean.
You say Kleenex, but it's really a tissue.
Yeah,
that's kind of the
You
standard.
say Google, but really mean search.
Right. I mean, I like YubiKey. I'm a big fan of them. I don't think that anybody necessarily endorses any one or the other ones, but I do happen to like YubiKey quite a bit. probably because to me the word Japanese for finger is yubi, and so it's just like saying it's the finger key, and I really like that, and and they make great hardware. So anyway, random.
Did we have any more questions?
Dear Chris and Alex, I have a scheduled data backup every hour on deploy. If a few machines take more than an hour, should I deploy every 2 hours, or what would be best practice? Evan R.
Thanks, Evan, for the question. Let's see. So you have it set up on every hour. If it takes more than an hour, should you deploy every 2 hours?
I have some thoughts, first and foremost.
Go ahead.
I'm making some assumptions.
Okay.
Let's see if you're on the same page with me here. When you say you have a scheduled data backup via deploy, you're not talking about the database backup within deploy, is what I'm assuming. I'm assuming you mean you're using a backup solution that you're triggering via a package and a schedule. Is that the assumption that you had?
Yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, it's kind of more, here's my opinion. This kind of comes down to, what do you deem valuable? Is data changing so frequently and it's so valuable that it needs to be backed up that frequently enough that within 2 hours the data is so outdated that it's going to be a problem to try to utilize that or the stale data? Or do you need data to be, every single hour needs to be updated no matter what, because the amount of data and the type of data is changing so rapidly that outdated data is useless to you? Then I would say try to do it as close to that window that you can find as possible that works for you. But I don't think there's going to be a end-all be-all answer for that, in my opinion, but that's just my take on it.
No, that's perfect. In fact, that's kind of the point, is it's all about risk mitigation. Like, how much risk are you willing to take on? So if, for example, going back to what I was talking about when I worked, when I managed the IT for a mid-sized call center, it was, we have to have these recordings available consistently, because if there's ever a compliance issue or something that we have to take seriously, or a lawsuit that comes up, we need to be able to have record of what happened and the recording to go along with it. And so we were very, 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 very aggressive with our backup solution. Now, if you're in the same case, cool. And if you're finding that your backups take 2 hours on some machines and you always know which machines those are, my personal thought on this is pull up inventory, create a static collection, and pick those machines. Have those on a schedule that's slower, that if it takes an hour and a half to 2 hours to do it, okay, set the schedule for 2 hours and 30 minutes so that you're getting it as quick as possible, and then throw everybody else in the hour one if you need to do that. Just know that you can customize this via collections or any sort of method. Maybe if the package that you have, and again, I'm rambling here, if the package, the do stuff with the backups, so let's say your first step here is, do the backups. So we'll do, it's a PowerShell, because you love PowerShell because you're awesome. And so I'm just going to say, do the backups. Woo! You might have a second step, or part of that first step, where maybe you do, you want to know when the backup's done and the actual backup solution doesn't let you know. Well, maybe you could write to the registry. You can create a file or something local on that machine to know when it's done, and then you have inventory scan for that. So then, this one, puts a record of completion or whatever, And then we have another step you don't need another step, excuse me. You could do a post-deployment scan, or if in the middle of the deployment you can add a scan step, but then have this kick off a scan so that record's up to date in inventory. Then if you have a dynamic collection that is looking for that particular record, you know which ones have been done and which ones haven't been done, and then you can base that off, like scan age, for example, to know what's going on or what have you. There's a lot of options here, I think.
I think that's great. Yeah, that's great.
Anyway, yep.
Hopefully that answers your question. Cool. Did we have any more questions?
Ooh.
Dear Chris and Alex, how do you feel about a password manager? Helpful, or just a payload of keys to find once cracked? Thanks, Kathleen.
Kathleen, hello. It seems that this is kind of a hit and miss depending on which password manager you're using. If you're relying on, say, the browser like Chrome or Firefox to manage your passwords, don't.
Oh, well said.
Because those are very easily found, and they're not really even encrypted.
No.
They're pretty much just in plain text. So I would say do some research, do some homework. They are absolutely useful, and there are some that exist that are open source that will provide you with plenty of security locally so that you don't store those in the cloud, let's say, or in some other server in who knows where, but you can store those locally with super high encryption methods and algorithms to make sure that your data is safe and secure. But it also comes down to the master passwords or whatever that you're using to lock those up.
That's it.
Right? Like if I have this super safe, this giant safe, and I put a combination lock on there that I got at the dollar store, well, yeah, that's kind of a problem. So you kind of see where I'm going with this, is that I'm not going to suggest that you go get any specific or particular one, but do some research, because some of them might work in your environment, some of them might not. But they do exist. A place to look would be Google. I know Reddit also has a couple of threads surrounding what they recommend, and just do some homework around that.
Yeah,
hopefully that helps.
The security around them, like the big names you've probably heard, 1Password, LastPass Keeper. I mean, a lot of them, they're fantastic. The way they actually handle your data is considered very, very secure. It just comes down to what Alex is saying, is that master password is, the weakest link. Make
Yeah.
it good
Yep.
if you use them. So
Yeah. Did we have another question? Okay. So we've talked a little bit about phishing. We talked about firewalls. We talked about patching. Let's talk a little bit about remote access. So let's say you have a user who needs access into your internal network from, let's say, their house or a hotel or a coffee shop, right? What kind of things can you do to limit access to the really scary stuff inside of your network that you don't want someone else gaining access to? Well, the best thing I can suggest, that without going into too much detail, would be a secure VPN. That will allow a secure tunnel from that client machine into your internal network. And you can even, depending on the firewall or the VPN, you can limit the location where they land, meaning if you don't want them to touch the really scary, like HR, sales, finance side of things, you can limit the scope of where they're able to crawl within your network, if you will, and limit it that way. And just think of it in terms of the least privilege rule, where give them the least amount of privileges they need to conduct their business or do their work, right? You don't want to give them full domain access over a VPN. You just want them to just be able to read and write to the small files that they're required to do outside of work. And again, this is going to come down to what your needs are in your environment. Things will change from business to business. You're going to have to sit down and kind of figure out what that means for you. But that's one of the things that I would suggest. If you have another suggestion on that, or other ideas.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, VPN is the gold standard, a secure VPN. Like, seriously, it is a good thing when configured properly. As Alex mentioned, that is the key point.
Yes.
But it is something that everybody would benefit from, even if it's not connecting to your employer's network or your home network. I mean, just even like I travel to Japan often, and when I'm in the airport, and I want to have a decent connection, and I want Wi-Fi, or I'm in Japan, I need Wi-Fi, I always use a VPN. There's tons out there: ExpressVPN, NordVPN. I mean, if you want to configure your own thing, use OpenVPN client to your own endpoint, or that client with any of them. But anyway, secure.
You get the idea.
They're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes.
All right, let's take another question.
And let's start the speed round. Dear Chris and Alex, if I create a schedule to shut down computers, will Windows 10 machines run necessary updates or just shut down? Sincerely, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
I want to say that depends.
You've got a 50-50 chance of this.
Right?
Yes. Oh, just kidding. Do you have any thoughts? Do you know?
I don't think I know. I don't think I have 100%.
Doesn't it depend on your settings?
That's what I was going to say, is it depends on your settings. But again,
it also depends on the updates. But I mean, Colby, do you happen to know?
I do not. I kind of think that it doesn't do the updates, but I haven't tested it.
I'm in the Colby camp here with this one. I'm fairly certain I've done this before where it hasn't installed them unless you trigger it a different way. But I'm not entirely sure about if it depends on the different update, because sometimes you run updates and it says, hey, these are dumb, you need to restart your computer, yay! And then you go down to the start menu in Windows 10, and you have the options log off, restart, shut down, or install updates and restart and shut down, whatever. I mean, sometimes it has them, sometimes it doesn't. I do not know off the top of my head what the condition is for that, if that's a flag that we set in the registry or whatever, but again, try it, find out.
I'd say test it in an environment, see what happens, and then let us know. Or we can do it and we can let you know.
Touche.
Next question.
Dear Chris and Alex, could you guys make an auto-deploy that blocks writing for all users in most exploited locations in Windows? Pascal G.
Pascal, hello.
That audible groan.
That just scares me. That question scares me because there's so many different locations that I don't want to say that there's a most exploited location than others because there's too many vectors that, like, let's say I'm a hacker and I'm going to try to, infiltrate a network or a machine, and I say, aha, I'm going to install my malware on the C:\Windows directory. Oh, it's blocked, right? I'm just going to find a different method of doing so until it works. So, I mean, yes, you could potentially do something like that, but I think in the end, they're going to find a way around that, and it's really not going to do what you're hoping to accomplish. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's going back to the discussion of ransomware and my experience with it. It was because someone ran an exe from an Outlook, from within Outlook, right? That gets copied to the user's temp directory, what have you. And our knee-jerk reaction to that was to apply a policy to disallow you from running exes from that particular location, and then it works. However, heavy hand here.
Yeah, because there's even like fileless malware, which doesn't even require a file to exist in any directory to run. It just loads into memory and it runs from there, and then you're done. So it really doesn't matter in that scenario. And I'm not saying that your scenario is a bad scenario, just saying that there's other ways around that scenario that you might want to look into something like an antivirus solution that would mitigate those types of things in your environment rather than try to block the writing of a file to said location.
Yeah, there's good tools out there that do that.
Yeah.
Dear Chris and Alex, since we're talking non-PDQ stuff, anyone have a preferred way to limit domain admin logins with a yubikey type fob? Sincerely, Tyson B.
Tyson B.
Limit how?
Preferred way to limit logins. Like limit the number of logins, limit that they cannot log into specific machines. Go ahead, Colby. I think I hear some noise in your...
His brain's thinking.
Yes,
I heard it.
I hear it audibly, an audible noise over there.
What I think they may be asking is, do you know of a way to require something like a YubiKey as a second factor for domain admin? Because usually two-factor would be like on a website.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, and yes, there is. You can do hardware, fob authentication with Active Directory. Absolutely.
Correct.
Yes, I can't tell you off the top of my head in this speed round how to set that up. Actually, nor have I actually set that up, to be completely honest. But yes, you can. And I don't know if anybody here has, or if maybe we'll have a blog on it someday, perhaps. But...
And our final question of the day, can I use PDQ to send a small electrical zap through the keyboard when my end users are being end users? Sincerely, Tiffany.
Tiffany.
We all know what that means.
So, Tiffany, I think I know where you're coming from. I know Chris probably has something to say. But I think what you need to do is you need to set up some form of a jolt box at each end user's desk. And from there, send a deploy package saying, whatever it is you wish to say. No, just kidding. Go ahead, Chris.
No, do the things with the stuff. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I joked about this on a webcast probably 4 years ago. And it was with Lex, I think, if I recall. And we're talking about, we should totally do this. Yeah, we should totally do this. We never did it, which kind of makes me sad now. Now you just rekindled a lost flame that I forgot about. So
I remember.
Security first. Rough.
Thanks for watching.
See ya.
I'm Alex.
I'm Chris. PDQ.com.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, Kathleen F. and Tiffany G., winners of PDQ swag. Send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. Thanks again for joining us. Have a happy Halloween, and we'll see you back here next week.